Support for Arkansas Week provided by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, the Arkansas Times, and Little Rock Public Radio.
And hello again, everyone, and thanks very much for being with us. If higher education is central to a better Arkansas, then there is some encouraging news coming from Arkansas campuses. College enrollment numbers are up, and in a moment we'll speak with the university president about what's at work on that front, his campus and others. First, this is Arkansas, so September means there's still a lot of swimming weather remaining. But that said, Labor Day signals the end of summer, more or less, but it marks the beginning, more or less, of a second season that's almost as crucial to a crucial Arkansas industry. So, what sort of year has it been, and what's the autumn outlook? We're joined now by Shea Lewis, Secretary of the State Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for coming in. Let's start with a season that's just ended. How was it for Arkansas?
So it proved to be a great season for Arkansas. We continue just to see growth in the tourism economy across the state. We're so fortunate to have great seasons like summer, that so many people come to Arkansas to visit our lakes, rivers, streams, great municipal destinations that we have across our state, some of our well-known tourism destinations, whether that's Northwest Arkansas or Hot Springs or Central Arkansas, Little Rock. But the great thing is that Arkansas is really becoming known more as a destination 365 days a year. And we're kind of really taking a look at that for promotion purposes specifically of the entire state year-round.
For a long time, Arkansas was its own best tourism customer. Is that still the case? It
is. We're fortunate to have so many in-state visitors, but I know within Arkansas State Park specifically, it's about 50-50. 50% of our visitors in Arkansas State Parks come from in-state, 50 out-of-state. And, you know, that was really tested this year during the eclipse, where we saw such a higher percentage, high 80s percentage out of state coming to Arkansas, visiting Arkansas State Parks for the eclipse.
Right. Texas for a long time was our biggest customer.
And
out of state anyway. Right.
And continues to be. Texas, of course, is nearby, has large population centers. They, especially Central Texas, East Texas, looking for those large clear water lakes. They love visiting us. And
the outdoors remains our biggest draw.
That's right. Outdoors and outdoor recreation for sure.
So what about the contiguous states as well? They're coming in second?
They are often. We see, of course, we have always promoted around the states that touch the state of Arkansas, and they are a large draw for us, especially kind of in a regional perspective. One thing that we've done a little bit different this year, we've expanded our promotion to 14 states out west. Working with our partners, CGRW, and looking at data points that have pointed to where visitation trends are coming from.
That's the state's advertising agency that you just mentioned.
That's correct.
Okay,
that's correct. That's our partner and our state's advertising agency. Working closely with them, we have found and detailed approaches that are welcoming guests from new areas, and with the advent of technology, we're able to really target key audiences and invite them to Arkansas.
What is that? The West, of course, is known for its vast spaces and its outdoor attractions like that. Mm-hmm. So what's our pitch?
So one of our pitches this last year was, it's probably not snowing here. And so as we had guests, again,
hot as blazes. We go in.
The idea of that this campaign took place in the fall and winter, was placed in Colorado and in the western mountain states. The idea behind that was that we do provide opportunities for 365 days of outdoor recreation. So if you're tired of the snow, if you're tired of being inside, you want to be out on your mountain bike, you can come and ride your mountain bike in Arkansas in February and enjoy the weather that we have.
We want to get to that too. First, we've got the autumn season here coming in. Football, the leaves are turning, et cetera, et cetera. One more before we go to that.
Sure.
Is there one single draw? I mean, the outdoors is a great, that's an umbrella, but is there one single destination draw?
Hot Springs continues to be the #1 draw for the state of Arkansas as a tourism destination. But to me, it is a perfect combination of natural, historical, and cultural resources that come together. So you have the city of Hot Springs, its history, the national park that's there. You have the lakes that surround it. You have the Ouachita Mountains. But you also have great places to stay, spend the night, and enjoy nice meals as well.
We have 3 casinos up and running now. I mean, casinos are everywhere. Is that a measurable out-of-state?
It is. There's no doubt that the 3 casinos across the state have an impact, and visitors come for those as well.
Okay, now to the autumn outlook. How are we? So, what are you anticipating? You got some projections?
We do. If we look back a little bit to 2023, so our numbers always take a little while to come in to get a full picture of what has taken place. 2023, we saw continued increases again. We're seeing this year, this calendar year, we have seen increases in the 2% tourism tax. Growth continues to happen there as well. So we project that will continue. If you look at state parks, Arkansas state parks specifically, we have come off a record year in visitation or in revenue production. Fall is a very important time for that. We're hoping for good fall colors, good weather to bring guests and visitors to Arkansas.
Nobody wants a recession. Nobody wants inflation. But they have, no matter what state, they have tended to benefit in-state tourism. Your take on that?
Sure. I can certainly say, sitting around my kitchen table, that it's obvious that things, goods and services are costing more. It's apparent that it's having an impact.
Fuel prices
are an impact. So typically what happens is when we see those things take place, within state parks, we see positive growth because they are close, they're local, and we're so fortunate to have the Amendment 75 that supports our state park system. And because of that, we can provide services, opportunities, lodging, events and activities at a very reasonable price for Arkansans and for people from out of state as well.
You mentioned a moment ago the state's relationship or its contract, with its advertising and marketing agency, and perhaps not improperly, those contracts came under a level of scrutiny that's not always seen. That's now been resolved.
It has.
Do you anticipate a renewal of that scrutiny?
I feel like the role of the department is to prove that we're working hard to make sure that we're using the tax dollars effectively. And that's an important part of my responsibility, is to make sure that we take the tax dollars that come in from the 2% tax and that we use those dollars to work with the agency to bring more Arkansans. Tourism continues to be the number 2 economy driver in the state. That's an important part of our responsibility, as our department's role is more important than ever, especially when we look at the economy, to make sure that we're driving that, bringing guests in to keep those tax dollars increasing.
Now, you had an accessibility imperative anyway, dynamic at work here to make Arkansas's attractions, particularly in the outdoor arena, more accessible to those to whom that accessibility has been denied in previous years, decades.
And
Progress report.
Sure. So Arkansas State Parks has always worked within the Americans with the Disabilities Act to make sure that our facilities meet or exceed those standards. But one of the goals that we had as a team in the Arkansas State Parks leadership was to really find some opportunities to expand that. We saw some other states across the nation and state park systems that were doing really good things to invite and extend the opportunities for those with disabilities. We wanted to join in that. We built a small committee, an ad hoc committee that includes many partners, including Representative Mayberry from the Arkansas legislature. And in working with that subcommittee, we came up with some ideas of ways we can make some improvements. We've made improvements to our website, and we're doing other things as well to make sure our facilities meet or exceed those standards. One program specifically is we've introduced an action track chair program at Localized State Park. We partnered with Accessibility Across Arkansas, a nonprofit that reached out to us and had some ideas. We partnered with them. We received some grants to get these action track chairs. We made the trails more accessible, but these action track chairs are, if you could imagine
This is not your usual wheelchair.
This is not, no. If you imagine like the tracks that you see on a tank, so to speak, the type of tread that you see on these are applied to a mobility device or a chair, right. and allow those with disabilities to experience the trails like anyone else.
And the progress on that?
So it is open. You can make reservations now at Localized State Park. We've received one track chair now. We have 2 in the works. Our Accessibility Across Arkansas has received an additional grant. We've purchased 1 chair, received an additional grant, and we hope to expand this program.
Arkansas will soon be a quarter of a millennium old. So, and you've got a 250 commission that you're instrumental in getting ready for that. Observance, celebration.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Semi-quincentennial is the phrase for the 250th anniversary of our great nation. So Congress passed a bill or act to promote this opportunity. Many of us remember the bicentennial of 1976, and so this will celebrate July 4th. 2026 will be that anniversary. We have formed a commission. Governor Sanders, through an executive order, created a commission. I'm chairing that commission. I'm proud to be a part of this. Commission and work is underway. We've had 2 meetings so far, and through those meetings we're working on branding, ideas, internal structure and things like that, some committees, but we look forward to make announcements in the future about plans for 2026.
Well, I said it was Arkansas's birthday, actually the nation's. We're
That's right.
A few years away from our 200th anyway.
That's true. That's the nation's.
Is this going to be something that everybody can pitch in on and appreciate? The 250 when it rolls around.
It has to be. It's, I see how well this program will align with the Division of Arkansas Heritage. You can't think about the Arkansas Archives and some of our museums and locations and programs within the division that align so well with this. But this will be a community effort. We'll have to partner with the counties and the cities across the state for all of the events and activities that go along with this. A little preview is that we heard from Crystal Bridges up in Bentonville, and they want to partner with us on a 250 exhibit showcasing art and artifacts that showcase America's history as well as Arkansas's history.
Sounds like a party.
It's going to be fun.
Secretary Lewis, thanks very much for coming in. Come back soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Give us an update.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. A better educated workforce, a more sophisticated citizenry, sophisticated with a small s, meaning the reading and reasoning skills necessary to take on good paying positions and bring more of them to Arkansas. Higher education is usually regarded as foundational to that end, so the news about autumn enrollment is more than merely satisfying. At several post-secondary institutions, the increase is startling. The president of one of those institutions is with us now, Houston Davis of the University of Central Arkansas at Conway. Mr. President, thank you once again for coming in.
Steve, good to be here.
Were you at all surprised?
I am not surprised that some of the numbers are up because we're in a bit of a sugar spike right now in terms of students coming out of high school. We have about 2 years where that will yield some bigger numbers. But the focus that UCA and some of the other schools have placed on unmet need, trying to help families to change the conversation about how can they pay for school. I'm not at all surprised to see that that's paying off. I think UCA has been very proud to be sort of leading that conversation and a part of something that it's a bit of a wave that's taken over the state. That's a good thing.
Well, in terms of households, you're not put a finer point on it, you're changing the conversation by changing the economics of it.
That's right. You have a lot of families, I think we were pointing out last year, that they just think that the cost of college makes it unattainable for them. They worry about debt, and rightly so. I mean, if you're poor or not a lot of disposable income, it can be an insurmountable task thinking about that. But changing the narrative to be able to paint a picture for how a family cannot take on debt, to where you don't have to take out loans, you don't have to put down a credit card to be able to pay for mandatory fees. That's at the heart of UCA commitment and certainly some of the other efforts. That changes the dinner table conversations for families to say that, hey, if higher ed, as you said, is a foundational element of our future and our economic future in the state, then let's remove that debt argument.
Okay, the sheer numbers for UCA in terms of the freshman enrollment.
Yeah. We, just a little while ago, we have 2,183 freshmen this fall. That is a 26% increase. 765 of those are benefiting from UCA commitment. We think that growth some of that is fueled by UCA commitment. I think about 200 of those additional students can be explained by that. And then some of that is just the general momentum that the university has had.
Yeah, a couple of examples from other campuses. For example, Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. The Fayetteville enrollment, of course, is just setting record. But from ASU, the creation of the Promise Plus scholarship, an increase in our social media and marketing campaigns, and the collaboration of faculty and staff into a total approach to recruitment are a few of the key reasons for the very significant enrollment increase. From the University of Arkansas, Little Rock, a similar assessment, similar growth. The scholarship initiatives have been key to reducing costs for students and families last year. UA Little Rock launched the Trojan Guarantee, a scholarship covering full tuition for Pell Grant eligible students. Program based on half-off scholarship introduced in 2020 offers significant discounts, tuition, students regardless of income. So again, it's the economic, and this is true also of private institutions.
That's correct.
The increases.
Yeah.
Lyon, for example, in Batesville.
I think finding a way to break down those barriers to cost, I think Commissioner Warden and the Arkansas Division of Higher Education, they've pointed out that the number of students attempting post-secondary, whether it be public universities, private universities, or two-year schools, had gone down from 51% to 42%. A lot of our conversation at the policy level in the state of Arkansas has been about how can we reverse that trend. And you've got to think that financial barrier and the cost considerations are one of the primary reasons that students and families weren't looking to cast their lot with us. So I do hope that this is a reversal of what has been a very negative trend over the last decade. We need to get that going back in the right direction.
Well, enrolling is one thing, retaining is another.
Without a doubt.
So, are these numbers, to what extent, if any, I don't mean to be cynical, but are these numbers illusory?
Yeah, I had somebody ask, is this record freshman enrollment and record growth for us? It certainly is. Since 2015, since we raised admission standards at UCA, this is by far the largest class. And I've pointed out that even with our UCA commitment program, our denied admission stack was up 19% this year. So we were not going to walk away. I cannot speak for my other colleagues at the other universities as to whether or not they made any changes to their admission standards. But our focus has to be on if a student sees that UCA is academically the right fit for them. And I stress all the time that not every student, we're not the right fit for everybody. But if we academically are in their plans and in their dreams, we're going to make certain with UCA commitment that a financial barrier is not the reason that they don't come. But once they get there, that compact with them is to make certain that we think they've got the potential to graduate, and we need to meet their effort and their work ethic to make certain they've got the supports to be able to do that. So retention is everything.
Well, okay, in addition to the financial, I don't want to call them incentives, but the reworking of the fiscal conversation anyway, is there a commensurate increase in retention, student development, academic development?
Yeah, actually, I was meeting with some of our students the other day. They were asking about what impact that UCA commitment has had on enrollment, and I told them I don't know. It certainly has gotten students to come to us, but it's going to be really important that we make certain that our academic tutoring center, we need to make certain that our academic support services are commensurate with that growth. We need to make certain that students know where to turn. I always, as president, if I see any freshmen on campus at the 6-week mark of the fall semester and they can't tell me that they're involved, engaged with something beyond just their classes, then I know that they're at risk. So us making certain that our early alert systems, especially for our first generation college students, we have to be very intentional for reaching out to them and connecting them up to those services. You can't just assume that they'll find them. You got to be intentional about putting them in their way.
There is still inflation and it affects everything, higher education as well. Are we incurring obligations, debt obligations? Are we being fiscally responsible? Now, not just your institution, but higher ed as a rule in Arkansas. Are we incurring obligations? Will we have to pay the piper later?
Yeah, there's a national conversation, and all the rating agencies, Moody's, S&P, Fitch, are really fearful for higher education as a sector in the future because they're concerned about a key statistic of net tuition revenue. They're seeing that too many schools are giving away, over scholarshiping, over granting, to where there is no money coming in to actually pay for operational obligations. I think as I sat here last year, I was telling you about our UCA commitment, and I'm confounding and still confounding higher education colleagues because we're doing it with no more scholarship money than we've done in the past. It's all about our ROI program, and I won't get into that on your show today, but what we've done the last 7 years to right size. Our net tuition revenue last year was $11.8 million. After UCA commitment is implemented this year, our net tuition revenue is $14.9 million. We're really pleased to see that going up by 23%. And I know that Moody's, our rating agency, was very pleased to see that in the pipeline. So that paying attention, and for private schools, that's been true for 2 decades. It's been one of the challenges, and it is what's getting into the debt spiral for those schools. Public schools are starting to feel the pinch, and with our faculty and our staff, we're talking more and more in our Budget 101 sessions about net tuition revenue because it's everything about positioning you to have operational health as you go forward, not just buying a class of students. That's not the way to be able to do things over the long term.
Well, another factor being considered by the rating agencies, the bond house, the bond agencies anyway, as well as the boardrooms and the chancellors and president's office, and that's the demographic trends across the country. The birth rate, for example.
That's right.
But we continue to have to make capital improvements on campuses and structuring in fiscal obligations for just M&O. That adds a little pressure to the situation, doesn't it?
It does. We've talked about in our ROI program, it can't be a this or that. I mean, we have to pay attention to costs for students, net costs. We have to pay attention to deferred maintenance. We cannot allow that to happen. We have to take care of our people. We make certain to be able to retain our talent, but we have to be looking 1, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. You mentioned the demographics. The sugar spike that we're in right now, I mean, these 2 classes that are coming through, we've seen that working its way through as we've been dealing with the enrollment cliff. But you can look in FY27, FY28, 29, the number of students coming through K-12 drop off precipitously. I'm going to nerd out for a second. This year's first graders and second graders are 2 standard deviations smaller than first and second grade classes in the last 20 years. I mean, that's what we're going toward, are much, much smaller numbers of students coming through K-12 as we look out for the next 10 years.
Okay, the UCA, just for your program, the UCA commitment so far, what's been the academic upshot of that?
But look, we're actually tickled. We saw a statistic this morning. First of all, we knew that the incoming GPA of those 765 students is 3.6, and that's right in line with our all-freshman GPA last year. Their ACT score of 22.1 is right in line with the all-freshmen last year. And again, we weren't surprised by that because we were not changing admission standards. We knew these were academically capable students, that there was some financial barrier that kept them from matriculating to our school. We feel very, very good about making certain that those students have the academic supports that are in place. We have to make certain that we're following them. They still are going to have life challenges, and some financial pressure put them in the position to be eligible for UCA commitment. We need to make certain that we follow them, not just as they begin this journey, but we think about how can we mitigate those financial pressures for them going forward.
I have spoken with some in higher education in recent weeks who are regarding the January legislative session with fear and anxiety at a minimum. The administration has said it's going to take, my words not theirs, a really new hard look at higher ed. What are your thoughts? You
Well,
apprehensive?
No. I mean, really not. I had actually one of our faculty asked me that question the other day, and I told them no, because of what we've been doing with our ROI program, because of the efficiencies. I'm proud of the fact that we're the only university or college in the state that has 0 low-producing academic programs on ADHE's low-producing programs list. I think that if I had a high number of those, I think that I would worry about it. I don't know where that debate or that policy work is going to go, but I would think any school that has a lot of inefficiencies that are going to be glaring, red flags, I think that would be a concern. I think that just like every year, every session, every biennial, we'll make certain to take a look at, all right, here's the lay of the land, and can UCA be positioned to thrive at whatever those changes are. But because of our efficiencies, because of what we've done with program focus, because of what we've done with things like our Arkansas Coding Academy and our Arkansas Aviation Academy, or the UCA Aviation Academy, those are programs that are workforce oriented. I expect that we'll see a lot from the administration about what can the universities and the colleges do to make certain to position programs that are workforce oriented. I think we're checking boxes all along the way already, so I'm pretty confident going into it, but you know, we'll meet the task, whatever it is.
Got to end it there because we're simply out of time. Houston Davis, president of UCA, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
And come back soon.
Always.
And that does it for us for this week. As always, we thank you for watching and see you next week.
Support for Arkansas Week provided by the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, the Arkansas Times, and Little Rock Public Radio.